Stan Lee. The name alone carries with it so much weight. It goes without saying that he was an icon, a pioneer, a real-life superhero. With the aid of people such as Jack Kirby and Steve Ditko, he was able to tell timeless stories about all facets of humanity that have leapt up from the pages and onto the screen, continuing to inspire millions. The screen is where I discovered Stan, so today I'm celebrating his indelible contribution to the world by sharing with you my top 10 favourite Stan Lee cameos. Excelsior! Number 10. The Simpsons. Stan first appeared on the long-running cartoon sitcom back in 2002. The episode was titled I Am Furious Yellow, in which Bart writes a comic about Homer that blows up online. The Angry Dad series forces Homer to sort out his anger problems after he becomes the laughing stock of Springfield. Stan appears a few times throughout the episode as a patron of comic book guy's shop, The Android's Dungeon. It is hilarious to see these iconic Simpsons characters interact with such an iconic creator. Stan goes out of his way whilst in the Android's Dungeon to put all of the Marvel books in clear view. He tries to put the Thing in Database's Batmobile only to break it and the young boy's heart. But the best part comes when he runs out onto the street attempting to transform into the Incredible Hulk, claiming he really did it once. Number 9. Mallrats. This film is one of my favourites by one of my favourite directors, Kevin Smith. Mallrats follows two best friends, T.S. and Brody, as they spend the day at the mall after being dumped by their girlfriends. Stan is mentioned throughout the film as he is supposed to be at the mall's comic book store for a signing. But he doesn't appear until the film's final act, which sees him give a wonderfully inspiring speech to Brody, one of his biggest fans. He convinces him to go get his girl back by talking about how his characters were created in order to help him deal with the one that got away. Whilst Brody is persuaded, turns out it was a clever ruse concocted by T.S. in order to help him out. Stan gives a great performance, exuding his charming personality, and watching Brody lose his mind is always a joy. Number 8. Thor. This cameo from Phase 1 of the MCU has always been a favourite of mine. The God of Thunder has been banished to Midgard, deemed unworthy of his title, and most importantly, his legendary hammer, Mjolnir. R.I.P. Mew Mew. Odin sent the hammer with him, however, knowing that he would one day be worthy of wielding it again. But in a sword in the stone turn of events, the locals of New Mexico discovered its whereabouts first and assembled to attempt to lift it. When none were successful, they brought in the big gun, Stan the Man. Despite slamming his foot on the pedal of his monster of a truck, the chain attached to it caused the entire tray to come flying off his vehicle. Not realizing, he adorably asks, "Did it work?" I'm sure Stan would have been worthy if he'd attempted to lift the hammer with his actual hands. Number 7. Thor Ragnarok. Jumping way ahead to Ragnarok now, and we see the future king of Asgard stuck on the outskirts of the galaxy on the planet Sakaar. Taken captive by Valkyrie and Sakaar's ruler, the Grandmaster, Thor is forced into gladiatorial combat. In order to be fit to compete, however, he must undergo a drastic makeover, which includes a drastic haircut. And who better for the job than the one and only Stan Lee? Stan looks outrageous in his Sakaar getup, wielding a contraption that looks like it will remove a lot more than just Thor's hair. As great as Stan is in this scene, it's Chris Hemsworth Thor that really ups it to a superb cameo. The Lord of Thunder's mighty defiance quickly dissipates once Stan turns the blades on. It is absolutely hysterical and fits in so well with what was an hysterical film. Number 6. The Avengers. Stan actually had a different cameo that was revealed in the deleted scenes for this film, where he calls out Cap for being a little bashful around a waitress. But the cameo that ended up in this film, while short, is absolutely perfect. The battle is over, the Avengers assemble to defeat the treacherous trickster Loki, and the world is celebrating in the wake of their victory. We see a lovely montage of news reports and interviews showing people responding to the events in New York. And there pops up Stan, acting completely nonchalant and almost insulted as he says, "Superheroes in New York? Give me a break." It is such a cheeky comment from the Marvel creator, considering the overwhelming amount of superhero movies that had previously taken place in New York and featuring characters that he created. Number 5. Avengers: Age of Ultron. This cameo never fails to crack me up. Early on in the film, our heroes are throwing a big party in Avengers Tower, celebrating finally putting an end, or so they thought, to Hydra and reclaiming Loki's scepter. There are, in fact, many hilarious moments during this entire party sequence, so it delights me to see Stan's cameo pop up here. Playing a war veteran, Stan pipes up full of confidence when Thor is talking about an Asgardian liquor that has been aged for 1,000 years. Despite Thor saying it is not meant for mortal men, Stan insists on giving it a try. Quick cut to him being carried out of the party as he drunkenly slurs his famous motto, Excelsior. The comedy is perfectly executed, and seeing Stan like that is just so entertaining. He did warn you, buddy. Number 4. Spider-Man 3. Don't worry, I am just as surprised as you are to see this film so high on the list. But if anyone was going to be responsible for elevating the film that is Spider-Man 3, I am happy to say it is Stan Lee. Spider-Man is the hero of New York City once again after saving the life of the police captain's daughter, iconic character Gwen Stacy. Tobey Maguire's Peter Parker is strolling through Times Square, notices the headlines in regards to his web-slinging alter ego, and pauses for a moment. It is then that Stan the Man appears next to him, a bystander on the streets, a random citizen of NYC, and says the following line: "I guess one person really can make a difference." But what really clinches this moment as a special one is when he follows it up with, "Enough said." Such a reaffirming moment that really sticks with you. Number 3. Captain America: Civil War. After watching almost the entire film wondering where Stan was going to pop up, turns out they saved him for the ending. Civil War was such an epic ride of a film that forever changed our heroes and the course of the MCU. The final moments see Tony aiding Rhodey in his recovery following his near-fatal fall during the airport battle. He's got some tech we assume Tony designed, and he is learning how to walk again. It is really touching. Enter a knock on the glass door. The pair turn to see Stan, the FedEx man, holding a package for a Tony Stank. Cue uproarious laughter from the audience and sheer satisfaction on Rhodey's face as he says, "Thank you for that, never dropping that by the way." It is just hilarious seeing the character's creator mess up his name so spectacularly. Number 2. Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. With each new cameo Stan made in Marvel movies, there is a certain theory that grew stronger and stronger. Stan Lee is a Watcher. For those who don't know, the Watchers are one of the oldest races in existence. Their purpose is to observe and collect knowledge about all happenings in the universe, but never to interfere. Since Stan was popping up constantly in all of these movies, this became the natural conclusion. In Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, and with subsequent confirmation from James Gunn and Kevin Feige, we learned finally that Stan is in fact a Watcher, or at the very least one of their informants. And the 2 scenes he appeared in were funny and fantastic. In the first, he references his time as a Federal Express agent, a nod to Captain America: Civil War. And in the second, right at the end of the credits, the Watchers are seen walking away from him, and he is begging them to come back because they are his only ride back to Earth. A beautifully done recognition of the very clever fan base. Honorable mentions. There are so many cameos and sadly not enough time to cover them all. Here are 3 honorable mentions. Fantastic Four: The Rise of the Silver Surfer. This cameo deserves a mention because it is one of the few where Stan actually plays himself. Plus, it is a very meta joke to make, and I live for that kind of thing. In the beginning of the film, friends and family have finally gathered to celebrate the union of Mr. Fantastic Reed Richards and the Invisible Woman Sue Storm. It is set to be an illustrious and lovely event, and a certain someone wants to be a part of it. Stan arrives suited up and looking great, only to get stopped by the doorman holding the guest list. He's refusing to let him in, not believing he is the Stan Lee, to which Stan just hilariously keeps saying over and over who he really is, in utter disbelief. It's the kind of gag that's been done to death, but I just love the way that it's executed, always making me chuckle, especially considering the Fantastic Four were his first creation. Deadpool. From a meta cameo to a straight up meta film, this Stan Lee cameo was found in the most unexpected of places. Ryan Reynolds' Deadpool is set to remain one of the best superhero or anti-hero movies out there. The Merc with a Mouth, Wade Wilson, despite his hesitation, and after some convincing from his best friend Weasel, has finally decided to reconnect with his love, Vanessa. The pair head down to her place of work, a strip club where she works as a waitress. After they enter, we hear a familiar voice on the mic, and then the camera cuts to a shot of Stan behind the decks introducing the next dancer, Chastity. To see Stan in this environment might have thrown some people, but that is exactly what makes it so much fun and hilarious. Of course, one of the funnier Marvel films would find a way to include him in such a hysterical manner. Big Hero 6. One of my favourite Disney animated features, Big Hero 6 is a brilliant superhero movie based on the comics published by Marvel. One of the members of the Six, Fred, is the son of two very wealthy citizens of San Francisco. However, we never actually get to see them because they are always away on business, essentially leaving Fred to take care of the family mansion and fortune. That is, until the end of the film. In a post-credit scene, we see Fred staring longingly at a family portrait, and we see that his father is portrayed by none other than Stan Lee. This inadvertently leads to Fred discovering his father's secret hideout and learning that he is actually a superhero himself. Stan appears looking glorious in animated form, and he and Fred bond over their shared method of wearing underwear. He then says they have a lot to talk about. It is such a joy to watch, and what I would give to see Fred and his father team up as a superhero duo. And my number one favourite Stan Lee cameo is The Amazing Spider-Man. Whilst Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man did not go on to the great heights that we all hoped he would, I am beyond thankful for this hilarious Stan Lee cameo that we received. It's short, like most of them are, but every time I watch it, I always burst out laughing. It is pure comedy and achieved so wonderfully. During the conflict between Spider-Man and the Lizard, their fighting takes them all across the school campus. The two of them crash into the library and battle it out in outrageous fashion. All the while, librarian Stan Lee is completely oblivious to the chaos right behind him. He is listening to a delightful piece of classical music with comical-sized headphones, clearly enjoying himself. He turns and walks out of the library completely unscathed thanks to the friendly neighbourhood web slinger, still unaware that the battle is occurring. I love everything about it and have insisted for years it's one of his best, and it will always be my favourite Stan Lee cameo. There they are, true believers, my top 10 favourite Stan Lee cameos. I hope you enjoyed the list, and don't forget to like, share and subscribe for more videos just like this one. You can also find me on SoundCloud and iTunes as one of the hosts of a podcast called Fred and the monthly at Winifred's. I've been a Kendall Richardson, and you've just experienced Collectible Chaos. Thank you for everything, Stan. Excelsior.